Well, of course, your boy goes off stream, eats dinner, figures the action is over, and winds it down with a little recap video thinking, tomorrow's another day. And yeah, we finally get the activity, and it comes close to 7 o'clock p.m., but it came. The Seahawks did something. Yeah, that's right. You heard me. The Seahawks did something on the first day of free agency, and it was big. It was not a little like, oh, we're going to give Rashad Penny $3 million. Oh, we're going to give Kyle Fuller the vet min. No. We went out and did something. The Seahawks have made a big free agency splash in the form of Dre'Mont Jones, the defensive end. So Shelby Harris out, Dre'Mont Jones in. Current information about the contract. Basic level, it's 3 years, $51 million, and I believe $18 million guaranteed. So it's kind of in line with what was expected for this guy, I think. I think a lot of places thought he was going to get 4 years because he's relatively young, but in terms of the value of the contract, it's pretty much in line with expectations. The guarantees, as reported, actually seem a little bit lower than I would have expected. $18 million of a $51 million contract. That tells me that there's going to be a very easy out on the deal after 2 years. So while this deal right now is being reported as 3 years, 51, I think that a more accurate way to put it may be it's more like 2 years for 26, 2 years, 28, something like that. But Dre'Mont Jones is a Seahawk. This was a guy who I talked about a lot this offseason as somebody I really wanted to target. I viewed him as the kind of younger and maybe more malleable version of Javon Hargrave. Where Hargrave, yeah, he's a better player, but Dre'Mont Jones is going to be a little bit cheaper, which he was. He's younger, and he can get better. That's the most important part here. So we got our man. We got the guy that I've been talking about for a while now. Unfortunate it happened off stream, but it happened, and there's reason to be excited. So Rappaport has the exact details of the contract. It's actually 3 years, $51.5 million if you want to be technical. The first year cash, he makes $23.5. In 2 years, $35.02. Again, I want to stress this. This does not mean the 1 year cap hit is $23.5 million. That is not what that means. That's how much money he makes in his pocket, I believe. It's a little bit complicated, I understand, but the point is that's not the cap hit, so don't worry about that. We'll see what the cap hit is in the coming days. So let's talk about Dre'Mont Jones a little bit here as a player. He is a 3-4 defensive end. That's what he did in Denver, and that is likely what he's going to do here. Former third-round pick. He's just the right size for a player to play 3-4 end, 6'3", 281 pounds. He's had a pretty productive 4-year run in Denver. The last 3 years in particular, he's given you a decent amount of quarterback pressure. Remember, 3-4 ends are not typically the guys who stack up double-digit sacks. They're the guys who get a handful of sacks a year, and their main focus is creating opportunities for other players as much as creating opportunities for themselves. Last year was probably the best year of Jones's career. He only played in 13 games and managed a tying career-high 6.5 sacks. So if he had played the full season, you're probably looking at something like 7.5 to 8 sacks. So, really good player. Maybe you could say he's about as good as Shelby Harris was when Shelby Harris was in his prime. And I guess that kind of makes sense, right? He's much younger than Shelby Harris is now. Again, he's not quite reached the heights that a guy like Javon Hargrave has, but he can get there. He can absolutely get there if he plays a full season in 2023. If he plays the way he did in 2022, he can start to approach being that double-digit sack guy. Now, if you go over and look at his advanced numbers, you can see that he's generating, a pressure plus per game, approximately, a little bit more than a pressure per game on average. So he's not necessarily the guy who's creating a ton of pressure in the way that the guys like the Myles Garretts and the TJ Watts of the world, but he's creating a decent amount of pressure for a player playing his position, and he's doing a good job creating opportunities for other players. I mean, Denver's defense during Dre'Mont Jones' playing career has been very good. The last 2 years, it's been good. Last year it was fifth, I think, and the year before it might have been like third. And it's he's been part of a very impressive cog here. Rephrase that. He's been a very impressive cog in that machine over there. Now, PFF doesn't really like him that much. 2022, his career year, they only gave him a grade of 52. And it was mostly because he was bad in run defense. Remember when I said he's like a younger, cheaper version of Javon Hargrave? This is kind of what I mean. It seems like he's not very good against the run. Go back to 2021, the grade is better, but still weakness in run defense. 2020 was the 1 year his run defense grade was actually decent, but you even go back to his rookie year and it's not good. So this is where I say he has an area where he can improve. But unlike Hargrave, he is much younger, he can improve, and he's cheaper too. So while I will acknowledge the fact that having a player who is seemingly weak against the run, like Dre'Mont Jones is, if you believe PFF, is an issue when you're trying to fix a front seven that by and large could not stop the run last year, I think that this is preferable to something like Hargrave, which is a little more expensive, a little bit older, I'd say a little bit riskier, because Hargrave had his career year on the Eagles' greatest pass rush of all time, playing with, some of the great pass rushers in the NFL right now, this sick rotation that they have. Yeah, Dre'Mont Jones was part of a really talented defense in Denver last year, for sure, but I don't get the sense that there was some sick rotation of defensive linemen in Denver to the point where it was easy for Dre'Mont Jones to get stats. So I prefer this for sure. Hopefully he can improve in some of these areas. Again, he's only 26 years old. He turned 26 right before the season ended. So there is some upside here for him to get better, some opportunities for him to maybe change the way he plays a little bit, to not be getting, to not, frequently what happens with defensive linemen when they're hunting their stats is they don't play the run right because they're just thinking about trying to get to the quarterback. Hopefully that's something that Dre'Mont Jones can get off of, because it seems to me that's probably what's going on here. I'll look more into it, try to really dive into the minutia here, but it seems to me that's probably what's going on. That's what happens with a lot of defensive linemen. But Dre'Mont Jones is a Seahawk, and let me just say this. If you take a look at Spotrac, they projected he was going to get 4 years, $68.5 million, so $17.1 million. We got him for 3 years, 17 per. So very, very close, just 1 year shorter. If you go to PFF, they have 4 years, $17.5 million average annual value, so $70 million total. So pretty much on the money, just 1 year less. So we did well here. We did not overpay. Like, you guys know how much I liked Zach Allen. And Zach Allen earlier today actually went to the Broncos. A little after I turned off the stream, they picked him up. They gave him 3 years, $45 million. A little more than 45, I think. So I think that you look at that and you go, and don't get me wrong, I like Zach Allen. Maybe he's a more well-rounded player than Dre'Mont Jones, but he's not as disruptive. He's not as destructive as Dre'Mont Jones. He's overall not as good a player as Dre'Mont Jones, and he goes for almost the same price. So I kind of look at that and I go, I think we did pretty well here, man. All right, so we made a big move. We made a big splash. I'm happy with it. I'm good with it. I think this is an appropriate contract. It's probably a little better, really, when you think about how easy it's probably going to be to get out of this deal in 2 years if we want to. So let me know what you guys think. See you guys later. Go Hawks.